What exactly is the right amount of tracking for your health? I think this is such an interesting question that not enough people try to talk about, because it's something I've struggled with personally myself during my entire fitness journey, running marathons, competing in bodybuilding, being a powerlifter, being a high rocks athlete. It's also a question a lot of people who are beginners to intermediates to advanced all grapple with, because advanced people will get really burnt out from tracking, or beginners who are just now getting started into taking care of health or the fitness or getting into a sport will become really overwhelmed by how much they need to track, and completely avoid getting into something or getting into shape to begin with, because they're not sure if they have enough time or dedication to track all of the guidelines and protocols and things you need to do that so many people convince us to do nowadays. Whether it's calorie counting, tracking reps and weight for your workouts, heart rate, sleep scores, step counts, there are now hundreds of ways to track your health and fitness. And there are dozens of different protocols to follow that many people will try to convince you to do. Anything from macro targets, carb cycling, heat and cold therapy, rep ranges, cardio routines. And I think these are all extremely helpful and have their place, but it is important to keep in mind there is no one correct model. There are only useful models, not one correct one. Bodybuilders swear by calorie tracking and measuring your meals down to the gram. Powerlifters swear by methodically increasing top sets by 2.5 to 5 pounds each week. Endurance athletes swear by using heart rate zones to track the intensity of their workouts. But you can get into bodybuilding shape without tracking a single gram of food. A lot of people will argue with me on that, but it's very true. You can get freakishly strong without tracking your weight methodically, and you can run really far and run really fast without ever seeing your heart rate once. I kind of view all of these protocols as necessary tools we should bring in and out of our lives in phases, depending on the situation, depending on the context. And for most beginners, it is often necessary to put up these guardrails for what they can and cannot do. Just kind of like a toddler on training wheels when learning to ride a bike, it is much safer to have training wheels so we don't make an unnecessary amount of mistakes in the process. Protocols are kind of like training wheels or scaffolding. They allow us to safely experience success before we have developed the awareness to consistently make good decisions on our own. Trying to lose weight without understanding calories and how much you're consuming would involve an unproductive amount of trial and error that simply just isn't worth for most people. And so setting a meal plan or a training plan for someone who's just getting into fitness is immensely helpful. It allows them to kind of execute on something that is quote unquote right for their health for the first time. They feel progress for the first time. And for someone who has never felt consistent progress with their health in a long time or ever, this experience is incredibly valuable. It gives you a lot of data to work with on like what works well for your body, what works well for you. But for an advanced athlete or advanced practitioner of the body, it's a complex term, but kind of what I mean by that is just anyone who's been really attuned to their body for a long period of time and tries to focus on what their body is telling them, and in general is in pretty good health with their body mentally and physically. These protocols can become massive crutches for advanced users of the body or advanced athletes in a sport. Without taking the training wheels off of the bike, you'll never be able to go as fast as you want. You'll never be able to do the tricks that you want. You can ride a training bike all your life and never master bike riding. And this applies directly to even elite level bodybuilders, powerlifters, or endurance athletes. If they never ditch their plans and protocols, they will eventually plateau. I'd say this applies more often to intermediates, people who are getting out of that beginner stage into an intermediate stage or sport, their discipline, whatever it might be, they'll definitely plateau. Most people plateau as an intermediate and do not become an advanced lifter because they're stuck on always following a certain protocol, never listening to their own body, never learning from their own body. The key to mastering any skill is eventually stripping it back down to its fundamentals. Every protocol is simply a model, and every model is an imperfect representation of reality. If a model completely falls apart the second your life changes or your body feels a little bit different than expected, it probably wasn't a very robust model to begin with, and it's not something you should be following for the rest of your life, certainly. For example, if you are someone who tracks calories religiously every day and have never made real progress without that, if I take away your food scale, all of a sudden you're naked in the desert. You'll have almost no idea what to do. You might get flooded with anxiety or emotions because you're not sure what or even how much to eat. You'll be confused by your own body sensations, not really sure what to do with any of the information that it's giving you. And the best model for health is flexible, it's dynamic, it's adaptable, and this can only be achieved through awareness, through attunement to the body, focusing on your breath, focusing on your emotions, focusing on your internal sensations, focusing on a lot of things that don't even have words for them yet. And the best athletes in the world do not follow rigid protocols. A lot of them do, of course, for maybe some of the year, especially when they're peaking for sports or whatever it might be. But they know when to take breaks from those rigid protocols and go into the off season to play and rest. They follow their body. Tennis players don't hit the ball calculating each hit. Far from that. They simply see and sense the ball reactively, hitting the ball exactly where it needs to go. They don't think they play. It's the same concept that applies to all health disciplines. If you have to think about each decision or protocol you have in front of you, you have not mastered the discipline. You've only mastered the protocol. The best athletes in the world know when to be extremely disciplined and work hard, but they also know when to rest and play, when to take off seasons. Chris Bumstead repeatedly reported not following any plan whatsoever after winning Mr. Olympia 6 times. He ate candy, cookies, and did track calories, didn't follow the exact workouts prescribed to him by his coach. He listened to the body and allowed it to rest after periods of hard work. Your health is an art. I truly believe your health can be an art and is an art. The emotions you feel, the way your stomach feels, the way your muscles feel, the energy you have. A master of any health discipline knows how to adjust their protocols based on these feelings, their experience, and the context of the day. And I'm not just trying to say listen to your body. It depends on all sorts of things. Listening to your emotions is not the same thing as listening to your body. If you listen to what your body was telling you all the time, you would skip workouts, you'd grab pizza. I'm talking about listening to your experience in the context of the day as well. So what the hell am I actually trying to say here? Because if you haven't experienced this before, you're probably a little bit lost right now. That's okay. But take bodybuilding as an example. This is a sport that most would consider a very cold and calculated sport. Most athletes and coaches have this screw your feelings mentality. Work out when you're tired, eat when you're told, eat what you're told, track X amount of calories exactly to get X result, and progressive overload your workouts meticulously to ensure you're building X amount of muscle tissue by X time frame. However, when this is taken too much to the extreme, the athlete that follows these protocols too literally leaves progress on the table. They decide to ignore their body and go through an extremely unproductive workout, accumulating a bunch of fatigue that affects the rest of their week negatively. This can ultimately build less muscle than simply skipping that workout or pushing it back by one day. Or the endurance athlete who forces their heart rate close to max heart rate, ignoring the signals from their body, muscle soreness, maybe they have aches and pains, their subjective fatigue might feel higher than usual. And they then accumulate so much fatigue from that workout that it bleeds into the next few days of their workout plan, ultimately reducing the stimulus they get from that workout and subsequent workouts. And this can turn into a several month-long, even year-long spiral of overtraining. Women can lose their menstrual cycles, men can plummet their testosterone, people will get into depressive, anxious disorders because they're simply accumulating a little bit of fatigue every single workout because it's quote unquote what they had on the plan, rather than trying to listen to their body of what it truly needed in that moment, ignoring a lot of signals over time. By following these external protocols and models, which are all, in a sense, corrupted forms of information given to us by quote unquote experts, we completely forget to take the time to develop an internal model of our own body. We lose touch with the information our body is attempting to give us. And I'm not saying simply just listen to the body. I'm saying tune into your body, study the context of the situation, and adjust based on previous experiences. This is only achieved through practice of not having guardrails in your training and whatever you're tracking, etc. You achieve better results by mixing protocols with awareness, but you can only develop awareness without protocols. And as a beginner, you must layer on protocols and rules and guidelines to learn. But over time, the same protocol that got you the results will eventually hold you back, not because your body does not speak in plain English. There are subtleties that your body communicates with that only you will ever be able to understand and describe. Many of these feelings simply do not have a word for them. The feelings that you get when you know you should stop a few reps shy of failure, when you're too tired or you're too fatigued, your body just is not feeling it. The way you feel when you know when you should eat a little bit less for the day, the way you feel when you know you shouldn't push through the last hard mile of a workout, the way you feel when you should be doing more and taking advantage of a day that you feel incredible. Overall, to become the best athlete and overall human you want to be, you have to practice without these guardrails, to listen to these situations and their context given, and to be able to adjust on the spot, on the fly, without a coach, without a protocol, without a watch you what to do. And a lot of the things that your body are initially going to tell you, a lot of stuff that you're listening from with your body, it's going to be a lot of corrupt information based on your own beliefs, based on what you've been doing this whole time. You might feel like you need to push harder because that's what's gotten you results in the past. That's your belief. And a lot of this work to be done of developing awareness with your body is erasing a lot of that corrupted data and filtering through that noise. And so you must experiment with yourself to master yourself. To enter this kind of flow state with your body, all of your decisions must come from internal sensations and reasoning, not external inputs. And most people who plateau with their progress are the same exact people who cannot live without protocols. And this is why I think it's very dangerous when people online give rigid protocols like their workout splits or nutrition plans to the public. It makes everybody watching them, especially inexperienced people, think that they are doing something wrong with their own plan, with their own body. When in reality, everyone's optimal plan will look different from one person to another. No person will have the same plan as another. The fundamentals may very well be the same, but nuances are what will be different. And the nuances are the stuff that you cannot ignore if you aim to be the best at what you do. A few examples of how you can do this for yourself, and kind of a challenge I'll give to you for the end of this episode is, start doing some of your workouts with more awareness. Start listening or start doing your workouts without listening to any music. If you track calories, stop tracking calories for a few weeks. If you always follow a workout plan, try not following any plan for a while and just going off of feel. And instead of always tracking something or making decisions based off of what someone or something else or device told you, figure out what you become dependent on and strip it away for a little bit. And you'll be surprised what you learn when you stop always collecting information and instead listen to what is already there, what your body is already telling you. Don't search for the next protocol. Don't search for the next guideline or the next plan. Simply tune into what's already there. There's already enough information with all the experience that you have. And I know this sounds very woo-woo, right? It sounds freaking magical, like voodoo magic. But this is precisely what has helped me become so versatile as an athlete and a coach. It's what helps so many other coaches and athletes be at the top of their game. It's what allowed me to perform in the top 1% of so many competitions like high rocks, marathons, bodybuilding, and powerlifting. And now feeling healthy with no injuries or obsession towards my outcomes. I don't really follow a strict protocol. I have plans I like to follow through with, but they definitely are not set in stone. And it's not because I followed the best protocols my whole life, but because I simply chose not to.